Welcome into episode 21 of the PrintFest DFS podcast. My name is Justin Rue, alongside Scott Bandy. And we're here to break down the Week 16 main slate on Draftkings. And I think it's a pretty straightforward slate. There's a couple of injuries that we kind of have to maneuver around. But for the most part, I think it's pretty straightforward. There's one game which is really worth building around, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Atlanta Falcons, and then everything else is kind of falls down from there. There's not too many ridiculously high totals on this slate. Breaking down the injuries, the most important injuries on the slate, Julio Jones remains out. So Calvin Ridley will just continue to get peppered with targets. I'm sure we'll be talking about him. Cam Akers has that ankle sprain that he gutted through last week, and so he is out. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out, open of Le'Veon Bell. Phillip Lindsay is out. If you want to touch Melvin Gordon, Hunter Henry is on the COVID list. He is out. Duke Johnson remains out. Tyler Boyd, it's a new injury. He had a concussion last week, and so he's out this week. And then Golden Tate, he is out. Doubtful, Christian McCaffrey, I doubt he's going to suit up. They're probably going to shut him down for the rest of the season. Terry McLaurin is doubtful. That's a new one. He's had an ankle injury for a couple weeks. So he's likely to be out. I guess we'll see on Sunday. Guys who are questionable, Keenan Allen, he did get a limited practice on Friday with his hamstring injury, but he is questionable. Zeke, I tentatively expect Zeke to play, given the fact that Tony Pollard basically is taking his job from him and it looks so good. Zeke's got to put his foot back down. Antonio Gibson has turf toe. He might actually play today or play on Sunday. He is questionable. Mind you, we are recording this on Saturday around noon. James Robinson, I don't think he's practiced at all this week, but he is questionable for the Jaguars. Allen Robinson and Cordarrelle Patterson are both questionable. I think I expect A-Rob to play. He didn't practice on Wednesday, and then he was limited on Thursday and Friday. Cordarrelle Patterson did not practice at all. So, and he's questionable. So I don't think Cordarrelle Patterson is going to play since he didn't practice at all, but I guess we'll see. And that kind of wraps it up for guys on the injury report. Guys who will play, James Conner, Tyreek is likely to play. Alex Smith is still questionable. And that whole situation with Dwayne Haskins and strip club and all that, who knows? Just stay away from Washington. Just stay far away. And then Daniel Jones is likely to play for the Giants. So that really wraps up all of the main guys on the injury report to keep tabs on heading into Sunday morning. So starting with our favorite quarterback plays of the week, I think that our consensus favorite quarterback play of the week has to be Jalen Hurts. And his price just keeps skyrocketing. So a couple weeks ago, when he made the start, he was 5,100. And, of course, we didn't play him then. And we're just like, who knows? Who knows what his floor is? And then he just proceeds to smash. And then he's 5,900 last week, and we played him, and he puts up 40. So in his two starts, he's averaged 85 rushing yards in those two games. Obviously, I wouldn't project him for that. Probably somewhere between 55 and 60 rushing yards. But even then, at 7K, with the 26 implied total taking on Dallas, and we know how bad Dallas is. I mean, Hurts has been the QB10 and the QB1 in his first two starts. And Dallas has been susceptible to rushing quarterbacks. They've allowed 94 yards and a touchdown to Lamar Jackson and 74 yards and a touchdown to Kyler. So I think that the rushing floor is certainly going to be here. They have a decent total. This should be a faster paced game. Might be a back and forth shootout here if the Eagles' secondary troubles remain. I think Jalen Hurts at 7K is extremely strong. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't know how the public feels about this game, but I think this game's going to shoot out. So I don't believe in either one of these defenses. Hurts has been just marvelous for the Eagles, so much better than Carson Wentz. It's like Doug Peterson actually learned how to call plays now. It's just crazy. Another thing that I think helps out Jalen Hurts is that, well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, is Sean Jackson's he's been activated from IR. It looks like he's going to play. So that at least gives – another weapon for the Philly offense. Dallas has been piss poor all year. If you want to stack Hurts, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but I think Goddard and Ertz are both in play. You can throw Rager out there if you want. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to like him. There's not really that much to like at quarterback this week. So in the matchup, I think Hurts is really safe. I mean, averaging 85 rushing yards a game the last 2 weeks, like we have no reason to believe that's going to change. So yeah, I mean, really nice floor, really nice ceiling in this spot too. Like, are we going to project 40 for him? No, but I think 30 is well in play. 30 is really in play for anyone who's playing against Dallas. So yeah, he's got to be easily the best quarterback in the league. Now, like I said, there's not really that much to like at quarterback, in my opinion. So I think my second favorite guy is probably going to be Matt Ryan at 5,800. Um, Now that's weird. It feels weird that I'm saying that, but for the matchup, he just seems a little bit cheap. 5,800. He's priced right around like Mitch Trubisky, which I think say what you want, but I'm not playing Mitch Trubisky over Matt Ryan. I don't care what the matchup is. For the game environment, the over under 53.5. It's the highest on the main slate. They are 12-point road dogs against Kansas City, and that's pretty much why I'm liking this spot for Matt Ryan. The Chiefs score 30 pretty much every single week, and the Falcons can't run the ball anyway. Now, Julio Jones is out again, which definitely put the damper on Matt Ryan. Every single week that Julio is out, Matt Ryan seems to struggle, with the exception of last week. So it's by no means a safe play at all. Matt Ryan's only hit 20 or more fantasy points 6 times this year, and he's also hit 15 or less, 15 or fewer points in 6 games as well. Now, like I said, he did have that nice showing last week, put up 30 points against Tampa Bay. That's at least a sign of life for Matt Ryan. He hasn't been very good this year at all, with or without Julio. But, I mean, 12-point dogs, like I don't see how they don't throw. Like, I think the bonus is almost a lock for Ryan, just out of, pure volume. I think 40-plus pass attempts is well in play. It's pretty likely. I really like, the correlation, if you want to stack him with someone like Ridley, bring it back with one of the Chiefs guys. I even like Gage and Hurst at their price tags. Hurst is really cheap, 3,400. I know he hasn't done much, but this is probably the most stackable game on the week. And like I said, not much to like at quarterback. I definitely prefer Hurts, but if you need to value, Matt Ryan at 5,800, I think is a fine play. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and this is definitely the game of the week where you really want to get this game right. So both these teams really like to lean towards the pass. I mean, over the last 3 weeks on early downs in the first half, the Chiefs throw the ball 66% of the time, and the Falcons throw the ball 64% of the time. League average over that span is 54%. So both of these teams are 10 to 12% above league average, in situation neutral pass rate. So both these teams want to look to the pass, and that typically is a nice spot for shootouts. It should be a faster paced game. I mean, the Falcons are going to get the doors blown off them. So there's probably not going to be a lot of efficiency for Matt Ryan, but we know the volume's going to be there for him and for his pass catchers. The only issue really with Matt Ryan is that, he just doesn't give anything rushing at all. He gives you no rushing floor. He's going to run for like 5 or, 6 yards. So he offers nothing on the ground to kind of buoy that floor that we look for in cash games. So I think that Matt Ryan is fine if you're, going for guys down that cheap, but Jalen Hurts is the preferred option if you can get up to him for cash, at least in both of our opinions. So moving over to running back. I think that there's a couple guys up top to pay up for, and then there's a couple value guys. So we can just kind of lay them out here. So Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler, I think, are and Dave Montgomery. Those 3 are the 3 higher priced options. I think Montgomery is probably the strongest out of all of those guys. And then the value guys are going to be Le'Veon Bell and Darrell Henderson. So with no CEH and with no Cam Akers, that opens up a ton of touches for these guys. So I'll start with Darrell Henderson, since he is the cheapest out of all these guys. So he's 4,500. They're on the road against Seattle with a 23 implied total, and they're 2-point dogs. So yeah, I mean, not the best spot, but in weeks 2 through 7, when Cam Akers was either not playing at all or was only playing like 5 or 10% of the snaps as he was acclimating to the NFL, Darrell Henderson averaged 15.5 touches in those games from weeks 2 through 7. And he averaged 86 yards from scrimmage and 12.6 DraftKings points per game. So, that's really not terrible. And Darrell Henderson, we know, is actually a pretty decent talent when he was coming out of Memphis. And this season, he's averaged 2.1 yards after contact per attempt. I mean, league average usually sits in that stat like right around 2. So, I mean, we could probably say he's about an average running back, talent-wise, and he's in line for about 15 touches. If he gets you 12.6 like he did, with no Akers earlier this season, I mean, that's okay. I mean, it's fine for cash game. It's not going to blow it up, but I think he actually has a nice ceiling here, given the fact that he should have the goal line role. I know that Malcolm Brown does mix in on passing downs, but this season, I mean, Darrell Henderson, even with Cam Akers in there for the full season, Darrell Henderson has averaged 1.5 opportunities inside the 10 per game, compared to 0.79 for Malcolm Brown. So I think that if they do get down in there inside the 10, it should be Darrell Henderson getting the work. So 15 and a half touches and goal line work on a team that we know is pretty decent. I mean, Jared Goff has been known for his shitty games, but I think we have to go back. 4,500 is just kind of too cheap for Darrell Henderson. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I mean, 4,500 for a starting running back. I don't really like this game very much. I think it's going to be kind of a bad game to watch. I think it's going to be low scoring, but man, this week we really don't have much value, and running backs not all that strong outside of a couple core guys at the top. Yeah, I think 15 touches are well in play, and we'll see. I mean, probably expect Malcolm Brown to get most of the third down and passing work. That's what we've seen most of the year before Akers took over that bell cow role. But yeah, I mean, if he gets you like 12 points or so, like that's hitting value. Like that's not going to kill you, and he's probably going to be pretty highly owned too. So he really helps, fit in the Chiefs guys, fit in, Ridley, Hurts, whoever else it is that you want to pay for at the top. So yeah, I mean, at 4,500, it's hard to get away from that.
Yep, for sure.
I mean, we probably both agree on this. The best running back play on the week is David Montgomery at 7,700. It's a great matchup this week against Jacksonville. They're allowing 34 points per game to opposing running backs over the last month, and the third most over the entire course of the season. So really, I mean, we've seen Monty. He's been smashing week in, week out for the last month, and now he's getting like maybe the best matchup he could possibly get on the season. And he I can't believe I'm even talking up David Montgomery right now because like I've had such a deep disdain for him. But he has been a total monster, and there's no denying that. Like he looks like a completely different player than he did, last year in the first few weeks of this season. Just throw out some stats. The last 4 weeks, he's playing 79% of snaps. That's the most of any running back in the league over that span. So that's really nice. He's had 17 red zone carries, fifth most over that span. 6.1 yards per carry is ludicrous. That's easily the best in the league. That's even better than Derrick Henry. And like the last 4 weeks, man, he's had 32, 27, 27, and 28 DraftKings points. Like, holy shit, man. Like, yeah, 7,700 is expensive for someone like David Montgomery, but like the workload is real. And the crazy thing about those stat lines is he's only really seen like legit volume in one of those games. Like he had 32 carries last week, but the 3 previous games he had 11, 17, 11 carries, and he was just uber efficient on those plays. So, and he's also getting he's getting all the passing down work. 6 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, 2 targets. So that it just increases his nice floor. Like he's just like. In this spot, like 25 touches, like well in play. And to make it even juicier, like Cordell Patterson didn't see the practice field all week, and I mean he's probably likely to be out. Definitely something to monitor. But even if he's in, like, man, David Montgomery is he's as close to a lock as I can see.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is weird saying this stuff about David Montgomery, but man, with the volume he's getting, he's basically a 3-down plus goal line back, and he's taking on this Jacksonville defense. That's kind of – and he's under 8K. That's just kind of the spots we want to be in, 3-down plus goal line backs, cheap enough. And, he's actually been really good. He's This season, he's averaged 2.7 yards after contact per attempt, and that's fifth in the league. And last year, he was averaging like 1.3, which was like bottom five in the league. So I mean, he's really made a big change, and I know he's had some really nice matchups these last couple of weeks to make him average 24 points per game over his last five, but it's another nice matchup here. So yeah, I'm totally in on Dave Montgomery in this spot. It's a nice spot for him. So another high price guy, if you can't get up to Dave Montgomery, or if you want to pair him, is Miles Sanders, and this is like kind of direct leverage off of Jalen Hurts. So we know that the Cowboys cannot stop the run. I mean, they have just gotten bludgeoned and bludgeoned and bludgeoned by running backs. 42% of the yards gained against the Cowboys has been through rushing. So, I mean, I know that Jalen Hurts is going to probably dice his team up through the air, but the Cowboys give up 4.9 yards per attempt to running backs. They're 25th DVOA against the run. And Miles Sanders, since Jalen Hurts has taken over the last 2 weeks, Miles Sanders has been unleashed as the full bell cow. He's played 82% of the snaps. He's had 18 touches per game, 3.5 targets in those 2 games. And he's averaged 113 yards from scrimmage. And he's basically the team's only guy like inside the 10. So, again, as a 2-point favorite in this spot, 26 implied total, he's averaged 22 DraftKings points per game in his 2 games with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's unleashed into a full bell cow at 7K. I mean, he's had 36 of the 41 backfield touches in the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, Boston Scott is not where – he's just not getting anything anymore. And Corey Clement's barely been touching the field. So, I think that Miles Sanders is more of a tournament play since Jalen Hurts is probably the cash lock on the slate. So, I don't think you should be playing Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts together, given the fact that, Miles Sanders is not getting much work in the passing game. So it's unlikely that Hurts throws a touchdown to Miles Sanders. Is most likely they're going to be mutually exclusive in this spot. So if you're looking for leverage off of Jalen Hurts, I think that Miles Sanders is a really, really, really good tournament leverage play here.
Yeah, he's set up really well. I mean, the Cowboys are getting absolutely bludgeoned on the ground the last month. Giving up the third most points to opposing running backs. They're giving up 5.25 yards per carry, and we know how efficient Miles Sanders has been all year. So, I mean, look for that to continue. Love that leverage off Jalen Hurts. He's probably going to be pretty highly owned in tournaments and cash too. So, yeah, I really like that. And then moving on to, the last running back we'll talk about is Austin Eckler at 7,600. I really like this spot for Eckler. Hunter Henry's out. He's on the COVID list. And Keenan Allen is setting up to be a game-time decision. Unfortunately, that is a late game. It's a 4 o'clock game, so we won't know about Keenan Allen until after lock. So that makes it a little bit frustrating. But regardless, I think Eckler sets up really well in this spot. Last week, he only saw 4 targets, but I'd say that's really more of an aberration than anything else. If there's no Keenan Allen, in addition to no Hunter Henry, I don't see how he doesn't get at least 10 targets in the spot. And the Broncos are pretty beat up on defense too. And even before that, they've only been middle of the road against running backs. Last 4 weeks, they've been up the 8th most points to opposing running backs. And if you project Eckler for something like 12 carries and 10 targets, my God, he's going to smash regardless of if he gets in the box. We've already seen he's the number 2 target in this offense behind Keenan Allen. And if Keenan Allen's out, Eckler he's just going to be the wide receiver 1. Now, the one thing that is a little bit frustrating is that Kalen Ballage continues to be involved. He had 8 carries again last week. So that's definitely frustrating. Anthony Lynn, come on, man. Get this dude off the field. You gave Austin Eckler all this money. He's so efficient. He's so good out of the backfield. Just give this guy the volume. It's not like he's some small guy either. Those videos he was posting in the offseason, dude is absolutely yoked. Just feed him the rock. We got to get Anthony Lynn out of here. But that's a chat for another time. But, yeah, I mean, I think Eckler sets up well for 20-plus touches in this spot. At 7,600, there's not that much to like at running back. So I think he sets up real nice.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's averaged 9.5 targets per game over his last five. I think you get that at the running back position. I think that you just take that, and it just gives you such a high floor when you get when you're getting 8 or 9 targets, and they're such high. I mean, they're like, I mean, he's catching like 80 or 90% of these targets. I mean, they're just like underneath little like 2 yard checkdowns. I mean, it's just perfect for raising your floor to go along with your 12 to 15 carries. So yeah, I definitely like Austin Eckler in this spot. So and then the last guy, I just want to we have to mention it. It's Le'Veon Bell. So I mean, with Bell, I mean we know he's pretty much dusted out at this point. He's not going to be efficient, and the Falcons are good against the run, but it is the kind of the spot where we always like to look for or for running backs is home favored massive total. Uh, the 32 implied total for the Chiefs. Attaching your running back to that is always a good spot you want to be in. Being with Mahomes, but 5,800 is not necessarily free for Le'Veon Bell, and we know that he's going to be splitting with Darrell Williams on passing downs at least. So yeah, I mean Bell probably scores a touchdown this week, likely. He'll be their guy inside the 5, but it's tough with Le'Veon Bell. He is dust. It's tough with Bell. But moving over to wide receiver, you want to mention something on Bell?
I mean, I was just going to say he is dusty, but he is going to be popular. It's a good spot. Like they're 12-point home favorite. It's like they kind of abandoned the run. Like they, and I don't blame them. Like they had Patrick Mahomes. Like if I had Patrick Mahomes, I wouldn't want to run the ball either. But 5,800, he's going to be popular. I think we're going to see a lot of lineups that slot in Bell and Henderson with someone like Montgomery or Eckler. Probably Montgomery. I think Montgomery with Bell and Henderson is probably going to be the chalk build because paying down for 2 running backs does help you get in Jalen Hurts, Kelsey, Tyreek, Ridley, these high-priced guys that I know are going to be popular. So I'm looking at that to be pretty popular. I think at this point I'm kind of indifferent on Bell. He's bad, but the workload's there. It's a good spot. So I don't know. I might get there, I might not. But I mean, he's fine enough.
Yeah. So moving over to wide receiver, I think my favorite wide receiver play on the slate, regardless of price, is probably Robert Woods. At 7K, his volume has basically been tops in the league. He's over his last 5 games, he's averaged 10.8 targets per game, a 0.69 weighted opportunity rating, 85 yards from scrimmage because we know he does get 1 to 2 carries per game, so he kind of adds that little buoy to his floor as well. And in the last 5 weeks, he's averaged 20 Draftkings points per game. He gives you 20 this week against Seattle at 7K. It's kind of what you're looking for. In Seattle, they've been better lately, but they've just taken on these terrible offenses. So I'm not sure that Seattle is completely fixed. Full on the season, they've allowed a 69% catch rate, and they're still 24th DVOA against the pass. So it's a nice spot for Robert Woods, and he has such a nice floor. He's had 29% of the team targets in the last 5, and he's had at least 5 receptions in 7 straight games. It's just he's really as consistent as they come, and taking on the Seattle defense in a potential shootout. This game could go back and forth. Certainly, these offenses have done it in the past. So, I like Robert Woods. What do you think about Woods in this spot?
Well, before I go into Woods, like this Bucks Lions game is on, and this just in, the Lions are fucking awful. Brady has gone 6 of 7 for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. They've given up 146 yards on 6 pass completions. Like, what the hell? Anyway, just that's mind-boggling. But anyways, Robert Woods is definitely my favorite receiving option in this game as a whole on either side. He has been uber safe the last few weeks. We know Cooper Kupp has been really boom or bust this week, and Woods has been the guy who's really been, not only the security blanket for Jared Goff, but he's easily been the most consistent, and I think he's leading the team in touchdowns too. That's really the differentiation that we've seen from this year to last year. Bobby Forrest is really in the end zone a lot more than Kupp, whereas last year it was like Kupp in the end zone. Now, granted, I don't like this game that much, but I think both teams are going to be throwing a lot. Like that's how you target the Seahawks is through the air, and the Seahawks are going to have to throw. I don't think the Seahawks are going to be able to do much on the ground, so I think we're going to see Russ, pushing the ball down the field, and I think it's going to force the Rams to do the same. And I think Woods, like you're going to get 8 to 10 targets pretty much every single week. So at 7K, he sets up really well. So I'll move into a guy, and granted, this guy he's pretty hard to fit, and it's Calvin Ridley, 8,500. Like he is really expensive. Like I said, it's a week where we're really kind of lacking value, unless you do want to pay down at running back. But man, what a great spot! Like I said, the Falcons are 12-point dogs. Okay, and that just screams volume through the air for me. Now, Julio Jones is out again. And in games without Julio, let me just go through here. Week 3, Calvin Ridley, 5 for 110 on 13 targets. Week 5, 8 for 136 on 10 targets. Week 12, 6 for 50-1 on 9 targets. Week 14, 8 for 124-1 on 12 targets. And then last week, 10 for 163-1 on 14 targets. Like, man, every single game this year without Julio, he's either had 110 or more receiving yards or a touchdown or both.
Yep.
Like he's had a minimum of 9 targets, and that was back in week 12, and he's still got in the box. Like, man, Calvin Ridley is just a total alpha. And at 12-point dogs, like Matt Ryan is going to be chucking the ball all day long. Like they can't run the ball at all. Ito Smith sucks. Todd Gurley sucks. Quadri Allison is just the definition of a plotter. Like 15 targets for Calvin Ridley, I wouldn't be shocked. Like it's week in, week out. He has been so consistent. He's one of the top 5 receivers in fantasy football this year. Like we know his red zone equity is insane. Like it's as good as you're going to get outside of guys like Devontae Adams. Like I said, he is really expensive, but the Chiefs guys are going to Tyreek and Kelsey are going to be very highly owned. You get that correlation there. You get the stack with Matt Ryan if you want to do that. Yes, he's expensive, but he's definitely worth it. Like at 8,500, he needs, about 25 points to hit value. And I mean, he's been doing that seemingly every single week without Julio Jones. And like, man, he is just a total alpha. He's one of my favorite players in the league. And I think it's just another spot where he's likely to smash.
Yeah, we mentioned this is the game that we want to be a part of. And yeah, he is definitely one of the main centerpieces that we want to be investing in on this slate. At 8,500, yeah, I mean, he's expensive. You're going to have to probably punt it off with your tight end. You're going to have to play Darrell Henderson and Le'Veon Bell likely to get up to him to have him be the centerpiece of your lineup. But I definitely think he's well worth it. I think my second favorite wide receiver on the slate, and I don't know why I'm not seeing more projected ownership for him, is DJ Moore. So volume-wise, if we just talk about volume over the last 5 weeks, DJ Moore is 7th on this slate in targets per game at 9.3. So he's getting peppered. He has a 0.73 weighted opportunity rating, which means he's basically getting deeper shots. I mean, and we go to his production. He's averaged 114 yards from scrimmage per game over the last 5 weeks. That's second on the slate, only behind Tyreek Hill at 124 yards. And it's even above Calvin Ridley at 107. So the volume has been there and the production has been there. He's averaged 16 DraftKings points per game over his last 5, and he's 5,800. And yeah, sure, he's against Washington. And this is probably going to be like a slower paced game where both offenses kind of struggle to move the ball. But, I mean, I think that they adjusted his price too far down for the matchup. The volume that he's getting is way higher than the expected volume that you would see at a guy at this price tag. I mean, just look at T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is $300 cheaper, and he's averaging 7 targets per game, while DJ Moore is averaging 9.3. So, you can get 2.3 extra targets by just going up to DJ Moore at 300 more. So, um, yeah, I think that this is a severe underprice. I would probably say if I were to price DJ Moore, I would probably put him at more like 6.6 range than 5.8. So, um, and the thing is, he's had a nice floor. I mean, he's averaged, he's had 50 plus receiving yards in 11 of 13 games this season. So, he's had a pretty solid floor. He's never really going to, be a clunker for your lineup. And then, he's really separated from Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson. I mean, in the last 4 weeks, DJ Moore has had 415 yards. Curtis Samuel's had 192, and Robbie Anderson's had 182. So you combine Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson, he has more than them in the last 4 weeks. So he is kind of coming out as the clear alpha in this offense. We know he's a great prospect, and he's in his, I believe it's his second year. Or is it his third year? I can't remember. I think it's his third. Either way, he's really broken out. And yeah.
Yeah, it's his third year.
Yeah, he's having a nice breakout year, and I think at 5,800, it's just too cheap.
Yeah, his price does stick out quite a bit. I mean, 5,800. Like, I remember, shit. I guess it's been a while now, but man, remember when Robbie Anderson was the alpha in this offense? And I know I was having a major tilt over that. Like, I was like, how does this guy just come in and cuck DJ Moore? Like, DJ Moore is just an alpha talent. Like, well, that seems to have gone away pretty quickly. Yeah, DJ Moore is just a total alpha. There's no Christian McCaffrey again. Washington hasn't been very good against receivers the last month. Give up the 9th most fantasy points over the last 4 weeks to receivers, 38 points a game. We know DJ Moore, air yards machine, like at 5,800, like it's just a blatant misprice. It's hard to get away from him at that price. Like, and I'm also surprised that he's not more popular. Like, he's priced right around like Hollywood Brown is 5,700, Chase Claypool's 5,900, Juju's 6K, like Robbie Anderson's 5,500. Like, how is he only 300 more expensive than Robbie? Like it's just a blatant misprice. Like, he should probably be at least like 63, 6,400. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a nice spot too. Like, I think they're probably going to crush Washington. We know it's hard to run the ball against them, so yeah, I mean, I love DJ Moore at that price. It's hard to get off that. The last guy we'll talk about here is I really like Deontay Johnson, 6,300. Despite the drops, he's still seeing just an absurd opportunity. Like, and it's a must-win game for the Steelers. Like, if they lose this game and they go into next week tied with the Browns for the division, like, they could risk falling to a wild card. So I think this is a game where the Steelers probably prioritize, getting the ball in the hands of your best players, and that's absolutely Deontay Johnson. Since week 9, like, Deontay's seen 10, 11, 16, 13, 12, 7, and 13 targets. Like, my goodness. Like, in the week that he saw 7 targets, he got benched. He got benched, and he still saw 7 targets. Like, I don't see that changing this week. Like, he's easily the best receiver on that team. Juju stinks. Like, let's just say it. Like, Juju stinks. And the Colts have not been very good against receivers the last month. They've given up the 7th most points to opposing receivers over that span. Deontay 6,300, like, again, like, at least he's more expensive than the other, Steelers guys, but like Juju and Claypool are still 6K and 5,900. Like, what am I missing here? Like, Deontay is like the clear alpha on this team, and he's still not seeing, that price upgrade versus the other Steelers guys. So, yeah, does he have an issue with drops? Of course he does, but he's still seeing just elite target share. And in this game, they're not going to be able to run the ball. James Conner doesn't look very good. They haven't been able to run the ball the whole season. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Deontay, but like he is just like the volume is just it's hard to get away from that for me.
Yeah, I like Deontay a lot. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned volume, and he's leading the league in the last 5 weeks in targets per game, 12.2. It's ahead of Tyreek Hill at 11.2. It's ahead of Calvin Ridley at 10.8, Robert Woods 10.8, Keaton Allen 10.8, Allen Robinson 9.5, and then DJ Moore 9.3. So, I mean, this is what we're looking for. We want targets. I know his A dot is low. I mean, his A dot is like 5. So he's getting these little shallow crossers, but we know he's really good after the catch. Um, the production hasn't been great. I mean, he's averaged 18 DraftKings points per game over his last 5, which is fine. I mean, if he gets that, I mean, you're probably pretty happy with that at 6.3K. So, yeah, I mean, this Indianapolis defense is kind of up and down. I mean, like they've averaged 9.3 yards per target against them, which is, league average is like 8.2. So they've been kind of getting doors blown off by wide receivers a little bit here recently, but they're still 6 DVOA against the pass. So they still have a respectable pass rush. And, I mean, Deontay at 6,300, I think that he's still pretty strong. I don't know about the ceiling in this spot, but I know his floor is just rock solid. Of course, if he's not getting injured. I mean, I played him so many times this year when he got hurt early in the season. He's tilted my brain off. I mean, he's been not getting injured in the back half of the year. He's just dealt with some dropsies issues, and hopefully gets those figured out. And because he's such a good wide receiver. I mean, people want to talk about, oh yeah, the drops. He's not a good receiver. It's like he wouldn't keep getting targeted if he was a bad receiver. That's just the end of it. If he was bad, he wouldn't get so many targets. So he's clearly still has the trust of Big Ben, and Big Ben sucks at this point. So who knows if he can even get it to him. But the nice part is he has that low A dot. So I mean, he doesn't need Ben to throw very far to get it to him. Yeah, I'm in on Deontay Johnson in Week 16. So moving over to the last position here we're going to talk about is tight end. And we always talk about every week. It's either you pay up for Kelsey or you punt it off. And I think that there's a couple punt options. You can go with the Eagles guys. You can go with Dallas Goedert at 3,600. You can go with Zach Ertz at 3,100. They're both running routes on about 70% of the Jalen Hurts dropbacks the last couple weeks. So both those guys are fine. Obviously, we prefer Dallas Goedert since Ertz can't move. But if you don't have the $500 to get to Goddard, Ertz is perfectly fine. You can also punt it off with Cole Kmet at 3K. He played 100% of the snaps last week. He is fully entrenched. We talk about him every week. His price never moves because he doesn't ever really do much, but he is entrenched as the starter over Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham is dusted out. He's like a red zone guy at this point. Yeah, there are other guys down there to punt it off if you want it. My favorite is Dallas Goedert, 3,600. We talked about how we like Jalen Hurts, 26 implied total. We know this game should be a back and forth shootout, and the Cowboys allow a 76% catch rate to opposing tight ends. He's averaged 7.4 targets per game over his last 5, and that's including games with Zach Ertz. So, Dallas Goedert is just an ascending talent. He's just going to keep going up and up and up, and if I can, I really want to try to get to Goddard instead of Ertz in this spot. And then, of course, you can go up to Travis Kelce. That completely changes your lineup construction. If you do go up to Kelce, there's no way you're getting up to Ridley. There's no way you can get up to 2 running backs like Sanders or Eckler and Montgomery. So it just kind of depends the way you want to set up your lineup construction, because Kelce is 8,500. So, talk to me about Kelce.
I mean, it's the same thing every week, really, with Kelce. Like, he is getting expensive now. Like, he's 8,500, and it's really getting tough to play these Chiefs. Like, Tyreek's 9K too. Patrick Mahomes is the most expensive quarterback, and they're still going to be super, super highly owned. Like, but for good reason. Like, let's talk about Kelce. He's had 10-plus targets 6 out of the last 7 games. He's had 15 or more fantasy points in 7 straight games. In 6 of those, he's had 22 or more fantasy points. Like, holy crap. He's really good. And to make matters worse, Atlanta is not good against the tight end. They're giving up the 5th most points per game to tight ends. the Chiefs have a 32 implied team total. It's scary, like straight up scary to not have a Chief. Like they are gonna light it up. Like they're gonna pummel Atlanta. Like I think they're gonna score 40. Kelsey, like I know he's a tight end, but he's not right. Like he's a top 5 wide receiver. Like he's gonna lead the league in receiving yards. Uh, and like I said, 22 or more points in 6 of the last 7 games. Like man, like that is you're not going to find anything better than that. And because of that, like I've been fooling around with some lineup construction that it's definitely going to be different. Like I've been fooling around with Kelsey in my flex with Dallas Goddard or Zach Ertz at tight end, just because like I feel better about a guy like Travis Kelsey and his floor and ceiling combination versus like some of these running backs this week that I just don't feel like great about. Like I don't outside of Eckler, Montgomery, and Henderson, like I don't love much at running back for cash. And so I think like slotting Kelsey into your flex, a guy like Dallas Goddard that you just talked up at 3,600, like I would much rather play him than any of those receivers down at that price range. Like Dallas Goddard is the alpha in that offense right now. Like I think he's a top 5 tight end talent wise in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean I kind of like pairing Kelsey and Goddard in my lineup. Like I think if Kelsey's getting 22 in pretty much every game he goes out there, like I'll easily take that. Especially, and this is a great matchup. Like they're 12-point favorites, and even if they do blow out Atlanta, like Kelsey's probably one of the reasons why. So like 8,500, yeah, he's really tough to fit, but I much prefer him over Tyreek. He has a much better floor. Doesn't have the ceiling, but way more consistent. He's had 8 catches pretty much every week. So yeah, I mean Travis Kelsey is another smash spot. He's as safe as it gets. Great floor, great ceiling. If you can fit him, I will never tell you not to play him.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Do you prefer at the same price Travis Kelsey or Calvin Ridley? They're the same price. I probably prefer Kelsey. I think. Uh, I think it's close though. Hmm. But I mean, yeah, I mean Kelsey he averaged in the last 5 weeks 10.6 targets per game, and it's basically the same as Ridley. So like these guys are so close. I'd probably lean Kelsey there, probably just because his implied total. Like he's the Chiefs are going to put up over 30 in this spot. So it's just the touchdown equity with Kelsey is certainly much higher than with Ridley. Uh, so I probably lean Kelsey there if I'm deciding.
I would probably lean Kelsey if to make matters simple. Like I'd rather have my pass catcher with Mahomes than Matt Ryan.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
32 implied team total too versus I mean Atlanta's down at like 20 or 21, which is probably low, certainly low in my opinion, but 32 implied team total. The Chiefs are the best team in the league. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Travis Kelsey's the best tight end in the league. Like you do the math.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a slate where there's not a lot to love. So trying to pick out the windmill play, I don't know. It's kind of tough. I think if I were to pick one guy as the windmill of some of the guys we talked about, I don't know. Probably DJ Moore. That's the thing about these windmill plays is like I want to have like conviction in this, but like this slate does not have a lot to really latch on to. Um, as far as like smash plays at their price tag. So I'll probably go with DJ Moore as my favorite play of the slate. Point per dollar wise. But do you have anybody who really stands out to you as like your favorite play point per dollar?
Oh, favorite play point per dollar. Yeah, I mean I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I don't really not in love with anyone. Um, man, like I really like Dallas Goddard.
Yeah.
Like at 3,600, I mean, I think he's the alpha in that offense. He's basically the wide receiver one. Um, I think he sets up really well. I do really like Calvin Ridley and Kelsey, but like they're obviously going to be owned and they're expensive. Man, I don't know. Like Windmill,
There's not a lot out there.
I don't know.
It's a smaller
It's
slate. That's
tough.
the other thing. It's a 10-game slate, so there's not a lot out there to really choose from. Um, yeah, I think that if you're looking for one wide receiver to lock into your lineup for cash at least, I think DJ Moore is definitely he's consistent, and he's been playing really well the last few weeks. Been really dominating the team targets, the yards. He's been pretty dominant. So I'll go with an underpriced DJ Moore as my windmill play of the week. You got anything else before we close up shop?
Yeah, I'll just stick with Dallas Goddard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
With
stick with
that,
Dallas Goddard. I think.
yep. Yeah, I mean Goddard's a smasher. 3,600 is just too cheap for Goddard. So with that, that's going to do it for episode 21 of the PrintFest DFS podcast. We'll be back on Monday night breaking down our DraftKings Week 16 lineups. And until then, good luck, everybody.